Wrapping up the first day of Transcend Goa with our last session of the day. And this is one of my favorite sessions of the day, although I have to say, this has been such an amazing day. And thank you for everyone that's been here for every session of the day. And this is a special treat for me personally, just because I think, as Mr. Sanjay Ram had mentioned, a lot of people probably know my next guest that's coming up here today, because you probably all have enjoyed uh, this particular character that everyone's enjoyed. Maybe you've all enjoyed this growing up, or you have children that have actually enjoyed this character of this particular company. The company is Green Gold Animation, and our special guest is Mr. Rajiv Chilaka. I invite you to come up, please. Absolute wonderful legend of our industry. Absolutely. Yeah. Makes you comfortable. Thank you for gracing our stages here in Goa for our Transcend Goa event.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. And I mean, it's lovely weather outside right now. And thank you, Harish, for having me. And thank you, Sanjay. And I just have to say this that I think this is one of the uh, most organized event. Like when we checked in last night, we got everything. Usually, we don't see that in Indian conferences. It's always chaos. I didn't see any chaos so far. So it's the first Transcend Goa. So congratulations and good luck for many more.
Thank you. So I know you've got a special reel prepared for us, correct?
No, it was. I wasn't sure it was required or not, so it is not there. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay, no problem, no problem. We'll go ahead and go through the questions. So I prepared a number of questions, and then I know probably there's a lot of fans in the audience, so I'll leave some questions at the very end for those of you that are really interested in actually asking Mr. Chilaka any questions you may have as well. So we'll get right into it. This session is called Animating Success, Green Goals Entertainment's Journey, because it's been quite a journey up to this point, and I think there's a lot more of the journey yet to be written. So we'll go ahead and get started. And my first question is titled From Scratch to Scale. And my first question to you, Rajiv, is when you founded Green Gold Entertainment, India had no real proven template for original animation IP at scale. What were some of the kind of original decisions that you made early on that prioritized long-term sustainability over short-term cash flow, especially when we were dealing with a scenario where a lot of companies are dealing with services as kind of a priority as opposed to just building an IP to like make a long-term vision or a long-term play in that kind of arena or that at that time in that space.
So on this, I think. I mean, it's actually a little bit of a long answer, and there is no simple answer on that. But I like to say a backstory that one first. I mean, I did my masters in computer science at University of Missouri, Kansas City, and so I was in computer science, very different field. When I was at the university on the orientation day, they mentioned to me that the logo of the school was designed by Walt Disney himself. So then I said, like, Walt Disney in Kansas City. So then I read about the life of Walt Disney, and I learned that before going to Chicago, then to Hollywood, he in fact started his career in Kansas City, and that was kind of inspiration. Second, my other inspiration was what he did in those days without without access to technology or finance or thing. Then I thought, if I can even achieve something like this in my lifetime, even 1% or 5% or 10% of what he did, that would be a inspiration by itself. So I think so that'll be an achievement by itself. And then I thought what he did with Mickey Mouse. And look at the story of Mickey Mouse. It is, I mean, even last year the revenues were $3 billion. So an animated character which has not been on television, recently, or no feature film being made or anything. Even today, if you ask a kid, he hasn't even seen it because it's become a brand. And then the first thing, I mean, of course, my inspiration was him, and Mickey Mouse was my inspiration. Donald Duck was my favorite character. Then I thought, wow, India is a clean slate. There is nothing. Then whatever we do here will stay on forever. In the sense, if you get it right, it can stay on forever. And before I started the company itself, I thought, and I've then, to learn animation, I went to Academy of Arts San Francisco. That's when I realized the importance of IP. I mean, initially I thought IP was Internet Protocol, but later on I learned it is intellectual property. So I made that actual transition from Internet Protocol to intellectual property. So that's when I learned, and that IP is very important. The company's valuation will be IP and never how much money you earned that year. As I mean, the finance guys talk about PAT and EBITDA and all those kinds of stuff. But plus, of course, you need an IP or something like that. So when I started Green Gold, I think my motive was very clear. I never wanted to do services. Services was not in my, what do you call, in my, at least in my DNA, or rather, I would didn't want that to come in my DNA. It is an easy call to go and do services, make a lot of money, or at least enough to sustain. But we went through when you, of course, it's a hard call. So it's a tough decision, especially in the early 2000. India was a very different country. It's not like today that, you can just fly to Goa like that, and people had to plan, okay, finances, all those kind of things. So for us to take a call that we want to stick to IP was a difficult call. And then doing an IP means you'll spend 1-2 years to even just to get an idea, implement the idea, and then do a pilot episode or anything like that. So we make consciously made that decision. Let's let's create only IP from our studio. That was the first thing. Second thing is, storytelling. So that is again something I learned uh, while I was in the US, because they were ingraining to me, or everyone there, that no matter how brilliant, how you can, no matter what technology you have, no matter you have the best actors in the world, but if you a director is the most important person, as we were hearing everywhere. So in animation, I've seen great products being created out of India, but they did not have good directors, because ultimately it's not important that a story looks good visually, but it is important also that the storytelling is apt. Then, of course, so when you talked about building from small and scaling up, and also like the people are the most important thing. And this value system also, again, I learned from American culture, that we all win together. That's very important. That kind of mindset usually is not there in this part of world, because usually everyone is fighting to survive. When we're fighting to survive, you're not thinking about other people, you're thinking about yourself. But what is important is, like, if you learn from leaders, you always grow together and you win together. And then everyone has to play that role. So I think personally, we were lucky to get the right talent, the right people. I had great mentors. Ashish ji is not here, but he was a great mentor to me. I mean, he was very inspirational to entire industry. He was doing a different scale back then, and but then, yeah, coming back, yes, I had family support. I had great. I had Samir was earlier here today. I don't know if he's still here, but oh, he's there. So he was a fabulous support. I think he saw me with my wild ideas. He said, "You go do what you want. I'll be with you. I'll stand by you." So I think these kind of things are very important when you start a company, that you have to always see that, okay, these are the things I need to succeed. And I think the most important other thing is having something, we in the world of AI, what is humans have an super edge is emotional intelligence. Sometimes certain things are instinctive. You have to use, as entrepreneurs, we all should make decisions by emotional intelligence or intellect. Somehow, when we had this name Chhota Bheem, I just knew it's going to work. I don't know why. I had no idea. So I think example like, so when we have to have that. Similarly, when I heard the show Motu Patlu going to come, immediately with the name, you know that okay, it's already got something. And what I mean to say is, we need to use our instinct in creating projects, thing. Services also. I mean, services is actually, I have nothing against services. So first 15, 16 years of the company, we never did services. But then we realized that we have become too boring as what we were producing because we are not learning anything. Then I said, when we do services, we learn from other people, how they are thinking, how they are planning, and stuff. So that's when we started our services wing also. But yes, scaling up, a lot of factors helped us. And like they say that success has many fathers, So that means there are many people who have made green gold what it is today.
Excellent. I did have I want a follow-up question because there's so many things that are really great that you mentioned, especially your journey going to America. And obviously, I was born and raised there, so I really identify with a lot of what you said. But I wanted to come back because the journey of how you created Chota Beam, the character, the visualization, you said it took a couple of years. Can you just walk us through a little bit of how you finally settled on the look and feel of the character? Obviously, it was probably a journey. Like, how did you end up settling on the final look of the character? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I think during the time, I think it was 2003 or 4, early part of that. And it took us not couple of years, 5 years to take it to television. So in the initial stages, I think, so I had this idea of Chota Beam. And in fact, me and Samir were sitting on that evening and we were looking through comics, like what should be our next show. Prior to that, we made Vikram Betal, and it was not a smart thing for kids. It's a different kind of story, and every storytelling has different. The every time every story has different characters, different locations, so it's not a viable production. So I at that point came up with an idea that kids should not grow up, and we didn't want to be in the space of public domain. So we created something called Bheem with same attributes, but not in that world, but in a fictional world, and where we are free to do what we want to do, how we dresses up. And I thought, what if he's not a prince, but he's just a common boy, common Indian villager? And when we thought of that visually, and I wrote down a few things, and in the morning I go to work at 9:30, but that time I was there at 8 o'clock waiting for people to come. And by 9:20 people started coming in, and then I started telling everyone, what do you think of this story? And everyone, like 7 out of 8 people, loved it. Then 2 days later I briefed the team that this is the characters, let us design Bheem first. So everybody in their head made Bheem fat, very fat, because they thought that strong means fat. And so then I said, no, no, I think we'll be giving, because a lot of messaging about obesity and all those things were going on. It is not smart to promote obesity because I know that parents are sensitive. People will call somebody's fat, they'll call him Bheem, or all those kinds of things will happen. So I thought we have to make Bheem like a normal, regular kid that anyone can relate to, and stuff. So we thought, okay, let's design Bheem and explain. So artists, a lot of them. So we had second iteration, third iteration. So 50 people drew. Then we shot it to 10 drawings. Then it became final one, and then we made 6 episodes with that character. And few years later, we couldn't sell it, so then we just scrapped the characters and we redesigned the characters. And I mean, like today's Beam, what you saw is after we redesigned, after once we evolved like as a studio, we realized that we can make it so much better. And of course, we stuck with the same colors, same thought process. The storytelling was same, We changed the designs, and then we presented to people, and then we got much better reaction with this designs and stuff. And then we finally, I mean, after 4 years, we finally got a green lit from Turner at that point. And then a year later, 2008, April 6th, Chhota Bheem went on air. And today it's almost close to 18 years. This April will make it 18 years. So I think we've been blessed to have something like that.
And yes, absolutely. And I think it's great. And thank you for sharing that, because what you've shared, which I think is really important for everyone, especially the aspiring, if we have students out there as well, is that the journey is never quick, right? It's never just like an overnight success. I love that, we talk about this a lot in America. It's like that overnight success is like, there's a funny running joke that we say in America, that overnight success that was like 20 years in the making, right? And I think you've beautifully detailed that. It's never just that quick success. So thank you for explaining a little bit about that as well. I wanted to switch over to another element in cracking the original IP problem. And obviously, Chhota Bheem has become a cultural phenomenon. And what I wanted to ask you is, kind of early on, kind of going on the same theme, what creative and cultural and even commercial bets did you take that others kind of avoided early on? And what kind of bets would fail today if you would have attempted them? And like what you attempted early on, if you would have attempted them today?
So I think I'll second part of the question I'll go first, and then I'll
Yeah.
go to the other one. I think example Chhota Beam came at the right time, in the sense, if it is today, I don't think there is any chance of it doing well at all. There's no way, because it's not. I mean, it is still relevant to today's time, but there's too much of kids content out there today, even from India. So we had a first mover advantage when we went way back. There was nobody doing IP. They did not do IP. Very simple reason was that, example, we spent $100,000 to produce a show. The networks were paying $10,000. So there was absolutely no business sense to take up that. That was the market in India. So when we started the studio, there was one kids channel. Then there was no animation institutions at all. So the first one was Heart Animation, which was just started around the same time or a few years before we started. So there was a ecosystem that was building. There was few companies. Toons was there, Color Chips was there, a few other companies, Pentamedia was there, and so the ecosystem was very early stage. So the advantage of that is that you actually, nobody is going to tell you this is not going to work. So we can actually, psychologically, you're not afraid of failing because no one has done it or no one has failed. So when we got the show rolling forward, I think I got inspired from few people who did the shows earlier prior to us. There was Tenali Raman from Toons. There was Kirit Khurana's Chhota Birbal. He did things so when I saw those shows, and I in fact enjoyed them, but they never made more than 13 or a season, because it didn't make business sense and they lost money. And I realized back then that, hey, so there is no basically, if you go IP in those days or do any original content, you're going to lose money. So first thing, we don't have any money. So how do you lose money when you don't have money? So the challenge is raise funds, and how do you tell an investor that, give me $100 and 5 years later I'm going to give you $50 back? So that was the business model. There was no way we can actually make it. So we had one division which was doing a little bit of everything under the sun, corporate films, sometimes I shot wedding videos, I shot audio functions for films. So I went, and because I had a digital camera back then, I edited digital. That time, not much of digital things were there. So I was doing these kind of things to kind of pay the bills. And like I was working with ad agencies uh, who were, working with different, uh, you know, product companies. That's when I met Samir, who was having his own business. He was doing multiple things like a shampoo, tortoise company, and all. So I started making ad films and stuff like that for him. And then he saw what I was doing, and then he said, Rajiv, why don't I partner with you? I will come on board with you. Let's make, so that time earlier it was called Green Gold Graphics. Then we became Green Gold Animation, and we both co-founded that in 2004. And then with his support, basically, I was not worried about paying the bills, and then and then I could focus on doing what we were doing, and so we went kind of. It wasn't easy at all because there were so many distractions. The market wasn't ready. So finally, when we went on air, it was we had a. So I mean, I'll tell one more story here. So we were in a smaller office and we were excited. Future was looking very bright. Chhota Bheem is going to come on air in 10 days. And then we're moving to a new office, 15,000 square feet area. We built everything. We have borrowed money, in fact, to build, and we had a lot of bills to pay. So we had this building coming up soon. And April 1st, we were supposed to move in. And on March 26th, Saturday night, midnight, there is a short circuit or something in the office. The entire office burns down. So that is not the office. We haven't moved in yet. But the furniture, the electrical, the air conditioning, the everything, almost 75 to lakhs to a crore of investment we've done in those days. It's like 10 crores of today's money, and everything burns down right in front of our eyes. And then I thought to myself, like, I guess this is probably my last day in the animation industry. That's what I thought at that moment. And then I kind of was going through figuring out what to do, the next steps, because people, when you go through such a sudden fall, everyone thinks your story is over. I also thought that for a day, but luckily I was not smart enough to, see the real future. In the sense, I wasn't afraid what is going to happen because I thought at anyway nothing. So then came the turning point. So 26th March, fire happens. 10 days later, Chhota Beam goes on air, and we don't get the ratings immediately, but I know that it was well received. So 21st April, 2 weeks later, we got the ratings, and it was the number one show. And Cartoon Network said, Turner said, make more shows for us. I said, I'm sorry, I can't make any more because I'm broke. You only paid me this much, so there's no way we can do it, and we are done. We're finished. Uh, and then they flew down. Came and saw the studio, what had happened, and then they said, "Listen, what do you need to make this one more season?" I said, "I need 100% advance and double the money you gave because that's the cost of production." They said, "Done." 5 minutes, the deal was done.
What a great story.
So yeah, it is a crazy story, but I mean, like the deal was done thanks to them. That's why we got many offers, 5x offers to move to a Disney or to a, I mean, not Disney. I don't want to name the channel, but to different networks. I always said no. I'm not moving unless they kick me out because I think they made us what we are today, and I'm a person that I will never forget that. So yeah.
It's an amazing story. Excellent. So switching gears a little bit, now as you look ahead with all your success so far, and obviously I know that you got a lot of ambitious plans moving ahead, and with global platforms actively commissioning Indian content, how do you balance platform demands with cultural authenticity? And where should creators push back, and where must they adapt to scale internationally with content, in your opinion?
Uh, so I think today's world is very different from 2008, where TV was the one-stop shop. If you want to win kids, you go to TV and it's done. But today is, of course, it's transmedia. It is multi-platform. Whatever you see in a theater goes to television, it goes to OTT platforms, it goes to mobile, it goes to YouTube, it goes to social media, comics, whatever it is possible. So when we are making something new, so we're keeping this in mind. And two things I want to mention, very important points for the content creators here to understand that today there are 1.2 billion screens in India. There are 350 million kids below the age of 14, probably more. About 500 million are below the age of, uh, I think, 19. And I think most of the population is below, I mean, like a majority, 50%, I think, probably are under the age of 26. So this is a fantastic demographic to have. So first thing is, honestly, we don't need to look outside of India. I think this is Indian market is fantastic. What we need to know is how do we reach to this audience? How do you monetize from this audience? Of course, the good thing about Indian audience is that Indian diaspora is across the globe. So basically, you're going to get whatever we make in India or anywhere else, you get recognition from all parts of the world. So they become your first viewers. But it's also important to understand that what is okay. So I mentioned about 1.2 billion screens. Out of that, 800 million screens are mobile because people are watching content on mobile. I mean, maybe I'm not sure like why maybe we're on the move. I think today we use 3 hours on our mobile. If you see the statistics, most of us do that. So we need to understand that this is what it is. This is how things have changed, and we have to make a plan as per that to monetize. Second, today whatever we put out on the digital platform is no longer going to just Telangana or Maharashtra or Goa. It is growing global. Overnight, it reaches every corner of the world thanks to technology, which means that your show, what you're making, has global audience also if you do it well. So, so do you want to look? So it is like sometimes you think, do you want to localize for those countries? That is, example, do you dub like we see Korean dubbed shows in India in Hindi, or Japanese content dubbed into regional languages India. We also have to do vice versa when we do that. But before we do that, we need to understand if our content is flying. We have to make good content first. We have to, I think there, like after seeing social media and so much of Instagram and everything, I realized that even before that also I realized that people across the world are same. We have the same needs, same emotions. Everybody needs to be validated. We need to have family, we need to have friend circle, social life, physical activity, eat healthy and all. So when people are the same, that means your storytelling is going to work. Whatever you do is going to work every across the country. But then when you go and pitch it to an international audience, let's say I'm going to pitch to LA, I go to Netflix and tell them, hey, I've got this show. They're not rejecting you, but they ask you, why do you think your show will work? What is the USP of your show? So we need to be ready for those answers. We need to tell them, okay, the show is going to be educational for children. It is going to teach you about nature, environment, or whatever values you want to tell through your story. So you need to be ready, prepared, work with your writers and producers. It is not easy. Example, a show like Friends works because we all of us will connect with one character in that show, and it is scientific that you're able to uh, you're able to relate. That means you're attached to the show. That means you're going to watch the show. We've done the similar thing with Chhota Bheem when we did that. We make like we bought, if there are two boys in the in a house, they're going to relate to one of the characters. If there's one boy, one girl, they will relate to uh, Chutki and Bheem. If there is two girls, then they will relate to Chutki and Indumati. So we designed thinking all these elements. If they don't like someone, he will be Kalia. If they don't like them that much, it will be Dolu and Bolu. If and then there is always a nice principal or a teacher, which is Indra Varma. So we thought of like these kind of things and we did that design. Similarly, global products also, like Mighty Little Beam is a great example, what we did. And I have to tell this also that on YouTube, I mean, I don't know exactly how many videos actually make it beyond single video making more than 1 billion views. I think I Googled last night, or rather Chat GPT last night, and it was like 300 videos plus that do more than 1 billion views. Probably it's more. uh, Mighty Little Beams recently on Netflix Junior YouTube channel hit 1 billion views. Just one single clipping of that. And on Netflix alone, we have almost close to 10 billion views on YouTube channels. I'm talking about Netflix Junior. So when we have that kind of views, we still don't know how to monetize it. So I think in the future for us as a country, as a diaspora, we need to have our own YouTube channel, that kind of a thing, which I think Ashishji is actually trying to do that for almost last 2 decades. Like he's working with governments to bring in a lot of policies. He did that, and we are all thankful to you, Ashishji, for leading that thing. I earlier mentioned about that you are my guru, and I've learned from you a lot, and I still continue to learn. So coming back to this one, so we uh, those kind of views are amazing. So as a country, we need to have our own platforms, our own ways of monetization. Today we are depending. I have to whatever we do, I have to ask YouTube, how much will you pay me, or can you pay us more? Right. Or I have to go and pitch in LA to do a show for India, or like my buyers are not Indian. I'm thankful to them. In fact, they have supported us, whether it's Netflix or Warner Brothers or Disney, and these guys are the reason why we have a animation industry in India. But it is not the local. Still, we don't have that one. So because we take our future generations very lightly, and we shouldn't, because they're the future of the country, and they are not in the vote bank. I heard this from another speaker who mentioned, I think probably Ashishji or Munjal, one of these guys said, because they're not in the vote bank, nobody's interested in catering to their needs. But I think it's very important that we take care of our future of the country. We are seeing today also what content we teach them is very important, because I think we are seeing crazy things happening across the world. Venezuela, uh, Nepal, Bangladesh, Iran. All this because people do not know how to react to a negative situation. But if in our storytelling we teach kids, the new generation, the right value system, that if we do that through, but we have to keep it entertainment, otherwise they won't entertaining, otherwise they're not going to watch. If we do that, we will have a better earth, a better human civilization.
No, I really appreciate it. That's really nice. That's really great insight. Thank you. I'd like to open up the floor to anybody that has any questions for Mr. Chilaka. This is your opportunity to ask him any of your questions that you may have had, you've been sitting on. This is your great opportunity.
Check. Hello, sir. Rajiv, sir.
Yeah.
I've seen your journey across. I worked in animation industry, so I've been following you. Your journey through, right from that small studio you had in Secunderabad to the one you have at Gachibowli. Chhota Bheem also traveled from being a 2D character to a 3D character to a live action. So you've tried everything, right from taking him from the TV to OTT. Just a silly question. Did you face challenges uh, adapting to changing audiences? The generations are changing.
Absolutely, yes. I think entrepreneurship or any business or any life, even if you're working in a job, I think we have to constantly adopt to newer things. And I think we have seen, especially in our generation, I think this last 2 decades, we have seen, like if you imagine a life without a smartphone today, it's like, how do we even live? We think back in 90s, we worked without mobile phones or anything. And how do you even imagine that if you go back and think? Similarly, today there are so many technologies making things easier for us. Same time, it is making things complex for a person who's not willing to change his way. So the most important quality I think, as we all should have, is adapting to change. I think, like I've seen certain musicians that I worked with. The Chhota Bheem's music director, he's 74, and he still scores music faster than a 26-year-old The reason is he has adapted to change. He uses digital technology. He uses all the latest tools, and that's the reason he's still at 74. He's had health issues, blah blah, but he's able to do that. He's still earning for himself, his family, not because he needs the money, but he is doing it out of passion. So I think it's very important. I've seen some great. We had some great talent in our studio. They're still with us, who refuse to change to the newer methods, and they're stuck in that. And when push comes to shove, we are going through a tough time, they will get on the list of hit list from the company or the pink slips they're going to get. Not because that they are bad people or bad performers, but they're not refusing to change. So I think for all of us, it's very important to keep adapting to newer things.
We have time for some more questions. Yes, English.
Hello. I just want to understand your take on merchandising and also gaming because you have started from movies and cartoons. How do you see as you move across different transmedia? What's the uptake, especially from the Indian audience perspective, right? Especially in the merchandising side. Usually it's a US thing, Western media, where they are ready to buy in, they were ready to put in the money to buy these collectibles and stuff. How do you see that trend happening in India, especially among parents, kids? Are they ready to put in the money to buy this for the kids? I mean, I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, I think of course, I think we forgot to talk about merchandise, but merchandise revenue is very important part of an company that owns IPs, and about during good times, in the sense when there is no COVID or weird things happening in the world, roughly 25% of our company's revenue comes from merchandise sale. And so our products have been on from comic book to coloring books to t-shirts to toys to soft toys to art to gift items. So we've pretty much done it all, and even licensing of our character on a noodle packet or a toothpaste uh, or FMCG products. We have done it all. I mean, beyond that, we are going to be opening now, inspired from Korea, Japan, and Western world, our own Chhota Bheem cafes, where we will be able to give that experience of a good cafe with what do you call a character, taking them through their that experience of character driven experience we're going to give everyone. So right now, example, we have reached about 40,000 stores across India in our merchandise segment. And believe me, it's not enough, because India is a vast country, and distribution in India is a nightmare, because one, it's a very disorganized retail sector, and reaching them, collecting money back is a nightmare. I think the comics guys know that. It's a nightmare because your checks don't come, your those things. But I think today, because of online and stuff, it become easier, and in the future it is going to be easier. And I think, yeah, we're going to be short. We are already on many online platforms, sending it, 10-minute delivery, Zepto, and those kind of things. We are getting there. We've been a little slow because we've been struggling with other issues that are there in the current industry, but we are getting there. But yes, merchandise something we are very proud. We have done a lot there, and we want to continue to do a lot. I think the future is definitely there, very bright in merchandise industry.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We definitely will have laddus, I think, as a this thing. And of course, the other challenge in today's world about cafes is we are making sure there will be healthy food, and more importantly, it has to be tasty also. That is tricky. What is healthy is not tasty usually. So we are figuring out that. And I honestly thought designing a cafe should not take more than a week, but we have been there on it 4 months now, and we couldn't crack the design because it's trying to understand different type of children, catering to that, making kids, the parents involved, the mother, the father, designing around that, a working mom or a working dad coming there, working, and he wants to go easy on the kids in sense. All the things when we are thinking there, we're missing out something. So we're still working on that.
Any other questions? Anyone else?
I think the lady here has a question.
It's been so good to hear about your journey and kind of believing in a dream and actualizing it. I feel it's very inspiring. But I wanted to actually repeat Harish's question because uh, it was a long-winded answer, and then I think you forgot to come back to it. How important is cultural authenticity to you? I know Bheem is rooted in our Puranas or epics, and you were talking about how storytelling is universal, so we don't really need to think about some of these things because they have universal appeal and archetypes are the same everywhere and all of that. But how important is it to you to have a cultural education through animated content for children? And is that something you think about? And because I'm passionate about that, I feel like Ashish ji was saying in the morning also, he wants to see the stories he grew up with on the screen. So how do we sort of make that happen? And do you think about these things? Are the writers involved in these things and all of that? I feel like I would love to hear your thoughts.
I think thank you for pointing that out. I definitely missed that one. But yes, I think it is the most important thing. I think the cultural authenticity or doing your research properly. Like if you see the characters in Bheem or Mighty Little Bheem, they are we didn't try to please the Western audiences.
Exactly, exactly.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen Mighty Little Beam, but if you get a chance, see it on Netflix. It
I'll
is
watch it.
there.
Yeah.
We showed the Indian mother, beautiful, normal, regular hair, simple sari, big bindi. We didn't try to cover up. We are very proud of our Indian heritage, Indian culture. We didn't try to show her cooking, burgers. She cooks our Indian food. Uh, we um we proudly show that uh, the Indian festivals in the thing. So Holi, Sankranti, today's Sankranti, happy Sankranti to you, all of
Thank you
you.
so much.
And so we've shown that. We have shown Diwali
Yeah.
festival. We have shown Dashra festival in our stories. How we as Indians do that and how villages dress up. So we in Chhota Bheem we have shown all that, and definitely it's a very important thing that we stick to our cultural roots. And today, I mean, it's nice to see you wearing a sari because you're.
It's
I'm
Pongal,
sure
yes.
that you are doing that, and it is important. There is, and I saw one gentleman queue. He was wearing a dhoti and all. I wish I had the courage to pull that off, but it is important that we should all be proud of our roots. And I'm one of the most. I came back to India. Very simple thing that uh, I am made here. I'm born here. I want to do something for my country. I'm not sure I'm successful yet. I want to contribute, and that we can only do when we try. I mean, and I'm still
Absolutely.
trying. I'm not
Absolutely.
doing phenomenally well or anything like that. As a company, we're struggling. As entire industry knows, we don't know how to figure out monetize. I think Viren knows that very well. The comic guys here know very well. Ashish ji knows that. I mean, he's been our flag bearer. But I think we definitely we stick to our grassroots. Like if we see all the great songs, they all have in Indian what we all love. They have all the classical things into
Flair,
it.
yeah.
I mean, like a mixture of, and again, if we see Durandar song, they have a mixture of classical and a modern thing. That is what we need to. That is what adapting to the current trend is. But
Absolutely, yeah.
culturally, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I always tell Harish the same thing, which is the more authentic and local your story is, the more global appeal it will have. Because everyone is local in their own context, and there's something relatable in all of them. Kind of making a subsuming sort of universal sort of identity, sort of content. It makes no sense. And I feel like the only way to do this is sort of localizing, contextualizing, showing your authentic roots and all of that. So,
Yeah, I think
absolutely, yeah.
on that, like Mighty Little Beam example, It is all about mother and child relationship, which is universal. It like, a kid loving his mother is the most beautiful thing in this world, and I think when that emotion is common across the globe. So in Mighty Little Beam we explore that. So I want you to see that and give me feedback. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. I want to take this opportunity to thank Rajiv sir, Harish, for an absolutely engaging and interesting session. May I please call on stage Brunal Valke, General Manager ESG, to felicitate Mr. Chilaka. Thank you so much, sirs. Ladies and gentlemen, that also, sorry, yes, we have a group picture. Brunal, thank you. Ashish ji, if you could join us on stage as well, please.